Gosh. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very exciting vlog set up, and that is reading A Curse for True Love by Miss Stephanie Garber. This vlog has been a long time in the makings. Let me tell you, I know this series, meaning the ending to the trilogy Once Upon a Broken Heart, came out back in October time, I believe, and I did receive it at that point, but I didn't actually complete it till December. So it did take a long time to read and film, and I'm only now just editing it. So at this point, I've actually already read the book, so I'm just filming this intro much later than I probably should have, but oh well, who cares anyway. So like I said, I'm reading A Curse for True Love, the third and final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and it will be spoiler filled because I do not hold back the tea, not that I want to, and there's just so much to discuss. So many things, so many thoughts, feelings, all of it, and it's going to be open to you, the viewers. So I'm going to be sharing these little two books that I have on me. I say it like it was like nothing at all, but it's not. So the one that I mainly read is this edition, which is the Indigo exclusive edition. This is the one where I annotated to the best of my abilities. I think at the end I'll show a little flip through of like generally how I annotated it. Other than that, you'll see clips of it here and there. Why this one is particularly special, if you didn't know, is that it does have a hidden backing. It just says Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, if you can tell. Right there. And then aside from that, Stephanie also did include like an epilogue. What's interesting is that all these editions, other than the standard one, I believe she always includes like a special epilogue that's different from each other. So she always changes how the story kind of ends. So that is the Indigo exclusive edition. And then the prettiest one of all, my Waterstones exclusive edition. This one I paid a pretty penny for. Well worth it though. So out of the two, I did not choose to annotate this. I didn't actually read this one. I read this one, like I said before, because this one's too pretty to like touch, to be honest. So why this one is so coveted, if you didn't know, is that it has one of those hidden 4 exclusive backings to it. So I managed to get the Apple edition, which I was so happy with. There was apparently the wolf, apple, dagger, and I don't know if this is a unicorn or just... Oh no, that's a fox, that's a wolf. I think one of my wishes as a booktuber was to get a signed edition of a book, so there it is. And yeah, this also has like a cute little epilogue scene that's different from the Indigo exclusive edition. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, while I discuss, I'm gonna be tearing off this thing in the meantime, and you can see already how it's going, but can we discuss what the heck that ending was in the Ballad of Never After? Okay, disclaimer, the spoilers start now if you didn't already notice. So Evangeline's memories just got wiped, like hello? Like, I did not expect that coming. That's probably one of the biggest shocks I've ever read about in a book in 2023, and boy, I was thoroughly surprised by that. Wait, did it come out in 2023? No, it came out in 2022. Wow, I feel so old now. Anyway. That, and then what Jax did, what did he do? He went to the mother Valor and tried to get her healed, but then Apollo erased her memory. Never liked that guy in the first place. Literally a walking red flag. But to be honest, so is Jax, but he's also like a green flag on the other side of him. I feel like at the end, Stephanie teased that Jax would have a much more important role in the third book, and that he would get his own perspective in the Curse for True Love. And just saying, I'm obviously continuing off from my last clip. I have read the book at this point. And the guy has like literally 5 chapters for his own perspective. And I was just so disappointed. I'm like, bro, like we deserve more from Jax. Like, this is what I was waiting for ever since reading Caraval. Like, we wanted a Jax perspective in a book, like, consistently, not just, like, one every, like, 10 chapters. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we got. However, take it or lose it, it's here, so that's okay. But I have to say, the chapters we did get Jax in, they were worth it. Like, I believe... Well, you'll see me discuss it, but it was really good. Okay, I finally managed to clear the tape off this thing. It looks naked, but can you notice? Not really. It's good. Okay. I'm so glad this one doesn't have it, but it is what it is. Okay, now let's actually get into the video. Okay, I'm only one chapter in. So basically, we start the book off from where the previous book, Ballad of Never After, has ended, and Evangeline is being consoled by Apollo, who is quite literally a creep. Like, I never liked him, and even now it's just weird because he is basically painting Jax as the villain, as the one who erased Evangeline's memories, and she's just supposed to believe him because he's the prince and blah 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 blah. But even she's skeptical of him. For someone who has no memories, she's skeptical of him. That signals a lot of red flags for Apollo, so girls, stay clear from that man. And he's basically outlawed Jax as a villain and a criminal for trying to murder Apollo and also trying to kill Evangeline and steal her memories. So this is very interesting because we have one person pretending to be a good guy and then the other person being a bad guy but also really being a good guy. But the bad guy in this case is pretending to be a good guy. It's just messy. And Evangeline's just ignorant in all of it because her memories were taken, which is so sad. Honestly, the ending for the second book, I did not see it coming from anywhere. Like, it's such a shocker with the way it dropped, which is, you know, such kudos to Stephanie. Like, I just love the way she writes, but I was not expecting that. I'm just so excited to read this. Honestly, by the feel of this book, it doesn't look that long. Like, it looks much shorter than the other two. It's like 400-ish pages, a little less, but I know we get perspectives from Evangeline, Apollo, and Jax, which is very exciting. Let's continue. Please be. Evangeline had a feeling this man wasn't supposed to be here despite his similar manner of dress, but he was the only one of this group who seemed to feel anything for her as she struggled for answers. If it's Jax, I'm gonna freak out. He nodded encouragingly, smiled at her sympathetically, and whenever Dr. Stillgrass said something particularly unkind, he rolled his eyes. But the gentleman was already gone. Okay. I'm like in the middle of chapter 3 right now, page 23. And essentially, we keep getting notes from Evangeline when she's usually in the same space as Apollo. She always says things like elsewhere, and what was the thing she just said? Elsewhere and without. Like, she's always feeling empty inside, like there's something missing that she was supposed to say. Anything like that before her memories were taken. And we know why. It's because Mr. Jax is missing. And I just... like, clearly, this whole passage I just read is signifying that I think he wants to meet her, but he has some, like, intermediary that sent her the message, which unfortunately wasn't him, but he will show up. We know it. And he has a perspective in this book, and I just really want to know more about him. Because we only know things on the surface about Jax, and Apollo can just drown for all I care. No one really cares about that. Okay, so I think it's a good time to update on A Curse for True Love now. So I'm halfway through the book. I have made many more annotations, as you can probably see. It's hard to see. I'm terrible at flipping. Hold on. I'll show B-roll. Don't worry. Yeah, I would have to say the beginning of the book, I was a little slow on the uptake, but I got to a point, I think around page 70-ish, where I just couldn't put it down because that's when, spoiler alert, obviously it's spoiler-filled video, Jax appeared as Archer, and I was like, yes, finally get to see him again, because I was like, I was deprived of the Prince of Hearts, and we needed to see him again. And the way he showed up, I forgot, it was the wishing well thing. Yeah, Apollo, such a snake. Like, what the hell is with this guy? I knew not to trust him. He just seemed like a guy you wouldn't trust, like red flaggish. And even like just his whole vibe doesn't give you good ones. It's funny how this book, I'm almost comparing it to Shrek in some ways, because Shrek, if anyone has watched it, I mean, you should have. It's just an iconic film. It's basically a parody of all the fairy tale movies that Disney makes. And it's just a mockery of, like, the concept of true love. And it's like they can only marry the Prince Charming, who's beautiful inside and out. And Shrek is mainly beautiful inside as well as outside. We acknowledge him in his lovely swamp. But when it comes to this story, I'm not saying it's like Shrek at all and that Jax is Shrek by any means. He's not an ogre. I'm saying that it's just interesting how Stephanie almost has this concept of a fairy tale. and twists it and almost flips it on its head to kind of show Evangeline that it's not everything you need, and it's certainly not what she needs, because if it was, I feel like Apollo would be the right choice, but it's just too much. It's just too in your face with him. With Jax, it's funny how every time before she lost her memories, it was just her saying that he was this villainous character who she couldn't trust, and he was always misleading her and like all these other things. But towards the end, that's where the feelings really started to show. But with her memories gone and it's slowly coming back, you see her alluding him as like this angel character, this golden boy with golden hair and blue eyes. I'm like, it makes it seem like she's thinking of him as Prince Charming without thinking he's Prince Charming. It's really funny. And I think this is like a theory of mine. I think they can read each other's minds. Like they have some kind of like telepathic ability because of that bond they share with like the debt she owes to him still. Because every time she says a thought in her head, like I wanted to kiss him or something, in his next chapter perspective, he goes on to say, oh, I wish she didn't say that because now it's confusing my feelings and all these other things. And I'm like, oh. So they can. It's pretty obvious. My favorite scene so far, basically any scene that Jax is in, because anything else, it's just the lights dim. Like I just don't care too much about it because he brings life to the book. Also, I'm loving Evangeline's growth in this because I feel like in the first two books she was very much a damsel character with like a bit of less damsel-y behavior, but in this book we see her really trying to break free from that because she's really questioning Apollo's choices and motives along the way, which I'm liking a lot. The thing with her giving him her blood, which was shady, like you don't do that unless it's like, yeah, you just don't do it. And then he took it without permission, so no consent. That's a huge red flag. And number two, I was thinking, what was the other reason? I even jotted it down. What was it? Oh yeah, she and him got into this argument about you know what, I should find it. Yeah, her and Apollo got into this argument where they're arguing about how she should stay away from Jax and all these like suspicious people and that they're villains in this life of ours. And she comes back saying, well, I'm starting to see you as a villain. I was like, you tell him, sister. And then up to this point, we have a big revelation. Not really revelation, but it's more like information about Jax. So in his chapter perspective, he went to go see Chaos, Caster Valor, and he had a chat with him about why he basically murdered this entire manor and the family and all this stuff. And then he says that at least I'm not the one about to destroy my life. And I was like, what does this mean? Because there was this entire time Jax has been alluding to leaving Evangeline like completely. And I was wondering what this is about. Maybe this is what it is. Because then he said he talked to Aurora, his sister, saying that Jax was about to exchange something with his life or for his life, something like that, and that Evangeline, if she found out, would never forgive him for this. And I was like, it's not him becoming mortal, because I know that's a thing for fates to do if they're in a very particular circumstances, like falling in love with someone. Like they said, true love will make a fate turn mortal and make them lose their powers. At least that's what happened in, spoiler alert, the Caraval series. I'm not gonna say who it happened to, but that's what happened. Yeah, that happened. And it's just the hunt. The first word on this page of the chapter about to start is saying the hunt, the hunt, the hunt, which means they're gonna hunt Jax down. And I'm assuming in this section, this is where she finds out Archer is Lord Jax, which we all know, but she has yet to know. But I'm really liking how her memories are almost kind of coming back to her in this case, Evangeline speaking, because it's almost like anytime she's with Jax, they almost have this like connection when it comes to blood or touching their hands together or something. It's very intimate and it's special in a way because it's nothing too explicit, but it's really well done. This is why I love Stephanie so much, because she can draw so much romantic tension and just intrigue between two characters without getting too grotesque into details. One of my favorite sections that also came up was a part where Evangeline and Jax, I think, were in some kind of art hall gallery area in the castle or something when he was about to leave, and she said in her head, like, it looks like he's has some kind of internal torment he's dealing with, and he like moves her hair behind her ear without touching her face. And she said she saw how his neck vein pulsed and how his jaw was like tensing because, you know, he's like swallowing down, she's like to hold it in. And it was like, that was such a special moment. Okay, I rambled on for like 8 minutes. I should really stop. Let's continue reading. I am very excited to see how this ends. This is, if I'm being very honest, it's probably the first time in a long time where I've been really invested in this series, because before I felt like I was just reading and it was cute, it was fine, it was fun, but it wasn't something I was naturally just couldn't wait to start and pick up again and put down. You know, it wasn't like that, but now it is, which I'm really happy with because it's a sign of a really good book. So let's continue. It's been, I think, quite literally 3 weeks since I've last updated on A Curse for True Love, but I actually did finish it. I definitely should have updated more. I'm sorry, but I couldn't stop. And the thing is, the lighting here is terrible at night, so I figured I might as well just update in the morning. So I finished it. I annotated it in depth. I don't know if you can tell. Overall rating for this book is still, I think, 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really like the way it ended up, but there were several things I don't think A, I agreed with, and B, made sense to me. So let's just recap everything I did since the last time I updated you. To be honest, I don't even know what I said last time, but essentially we got to the point where Evangeline got her memories back. Thank goodness. She found out Apollo's a snake. Yes, Aurora, also the biggest snake. I like how she almost, by she I mean Stephanie, teased like an almost other love triangle between Aurora, Jax, and Eva. I like the idea of it. I definitely wish she could have prolonged it more. That would have been so interesting, because it's just the torment we went through with Jax giving away his second heart to Aurora, so we didn't have to deal with Evangeline and his feelings for her. I was like, dude, just stop. Please stop. You're killing me. And that whole torment phase was just a lot. I definitely think Stephanie could have milked it and wrote a 4th book just about that love triangle, because not much of the first love triangle, Jax, Apollo, and Evangeline, really went on in this book. It did, but not to the extent I thought it would. I think my biggest issue with the ending is that it felt not wrapped up properly. Like, the major things between Apollo, where that ended with him being like drawn into the tree and like turned into like a face on the tree, was like creepy and weird, but I loved it. And his ending was immaculate. It's almost strange because if you think about it, Apollo, yes, he's a snake, he's a vile man, he's red flags written all over, but I think if, depending on whose perspective you definitely look at, his isn't entirely wrong. I feel weird for saying this, because technically Jax and Evangeline did mess with him first, so he does have valid reason to be angry with him. Do I think he should have went to the lengths he did to definitely coerce Evangeline into doing some of the things he did? Definitely not. But I think he has like a small little reason to be angry with them. Also, they didn't say what the purpose of the apples were for him. I thought, being this is the last book for Jax's whole series, she would have mentioned it at some point. Like, that was one of the reasons I think I went into the series, knowing that we would have gotten perspective on what the symbolism for the apple was. Why is it so important to him? Going back to the whole ending, we saw how Jax gave Aurora the second heart to be rid of his feelings for Evangeline so she could live, be happy, whatever. Aurora, being the snake she is, hid it in her little dungeon so Jax would inevitably fall for her. Didn't end up working anyway, thank goodness. Evangeline found out. She went to the blood tree, saved him, and it was really sweet. My thing is, how did Jax's curse, meaning the idea that he can only kiss his true love without it actually harming her, work? Because, okay, hold on, I think I'm confusing myself now, because Aurora said that the story curse changed the whole perspective of Jax's abilities, or like the perception people had of it, because originally his curse was written that he could only kiss the person who hated him, and that was Tella, so that made sense if you read Caraval. But how did Evangeline still live if his curse was still active? Number one, I was so confused by that. Like, I get it, like, oh, he really loved her till the end and cursed her till, you know, it's like love saves all. It's like those cliche things, but it doesn't make sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, can we talk about this? Like, I'm so lost. If someone knows why, please explain to me too. A second thing is that the wrist, the cufflet that Evangeline has from Vengeance Slaughterwood, Jack said, you know, it's never supposed to come off because it's supposed to protect Evangeline. So is she still wearing it at the end? I don't know. I would assume so. And it's supposed to ward her against any danger. And suddenly it's okay when Jax is near. I think it's because of intention-wise. It just knows that he's just up to no good, or he is up to good. Last thing. Jax is still immortal. From what I remember, Evangeline is also immortal. So the lifespans are different, are they not? Like, Jax didn't become immortal. So now we've set up not only confusion with Jax's curse, but also his idea of life expectancy. He's gonna die much later than Evangeline, and so he's gonna be sad all over again. And this is why I hate these kinds of stories, because they set up this trope where one person just lives to be a millennia and the other doesn't. That's, unless Evangeline became immortal, that's different, but she clearly didn't, at least from what I remember. That's sad. The other thing, I think this is the last thing, is that I don't think Stephanie ever talked about the last little broken heart, like, debt thing Evangeline owed to Jax. And that was just hella confusing, because that was like a big part of the first book and a half of the second one. So where did that whole plot line go? So this is why I kind of deducted half a star from 5 stars, just because I feel like some things were just left undiscussed, unproven, left behind, unnodded. You know how they say, like, you wrap up a book really nicely? That didn't happen in my case. I think the thing with Apollo was good. That ended that one. Clearly, I like the ending, was cute, but it felt almost too rushed. Like, we went from one scene where Stephanie discussed how Jackson and Evangeline saw Apollo being dragged in the tree, and that ended, you know, his evil doing and whatever, and that Wulfric Valor is now the new king of the North. Jon Snow. So that, and then the next scene is the epilogue, where now those two are living at the, what was it called? The manor? The inn. I forgot what it was called. The inn that Jax took Evangeline to, because they wanted to run their own inn. I like the idea of running their own inn, but the way they jumped from that ending to the epilogue was too soon. Like, what about those in-between details? I was missing that. Stephanie should absolutely write a sequel series to this, because it would absolutely sell. There was not enough given in that ending for me to feel like this series was concluded. May the best villain win. Clearly the best one has won. Mr. Jax has won. I think the next series should talk about Evangeline becoming immortal. But then again, where would she go with this? Where would Stephanie write? I don't know. Maybe this whole thing involves the cast from Caraval again. That would be so interesting. I like that how we saw more insight into Jax's past in terms of his relationships with the Valors. Who else? I'm always getting confused. So Lala was the sister of Lyric Merrywood, right? And so Jax was really close to her because Lyric was his best friend, along with Castor, which was Chaos. And I like that. I like that we went more in depth about Jax. But I'm also curious. I don't remember if Stephanie ever mentioned about, like, Jax's parents, or if he was an orphan or something. Like, I feel like it was almost just jumped into the idea that he was just always friends with those people, but they never mentioned Jax's parents. Maybe they did. I just don't remember. But that's just my impression. Overall, really like this book. I think favorite scene. Okay, the well scene, that was so cute when he brought her back up from falling, but even better, I loved his perspectives. I really wish he would have done more of his perspective in this. You see all these tabs? That's the amount of times Jax had a perspective. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters. I loved the times where, you know, he was just watching her. It's kind of creepy. He watched her sleep in those scenes and he would say like, oh, how much I wanted her, but I can't tell her how much I want her because I want her to be safe. And she would just end up dead if she was with me. Things like that were really sad, but it was really sweet because he always knew her, but she didn't always know him. And it's just like this whole dynamic was just so good. Anyway, so I think that concludes my whole readings vlog for A Curse for True Love. Let me know what you think about the series, this book. I love to chat about it. It's easily one of my favorite books. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in whatever reading vlog I do next. Peace. Okay, so this is just a short clip of showing my whole annotation flip through. Now I'm gonna go somewhat slow and I'll start from the back going to the front. So here it is, here's my side annotations. I did record a key at the front just to start with that. So I noticed is that when I kept reading, I kept adding tabs that I wanted to include in my whole annotation process, but generally, you know, it was just following this kind of guide, which I was really happy with. Okay, so let's start from the back. So this is the alternative ending, but I'll start here because I didn't mark it. Okay, so I'm gonna go slow. Would it be better if I did this? Oh my god, this part was so good. This is when the ending occurred and Aurora basically confronted Evangeline saying, what did you do? Why did Jax fall for you? Well, she's not a... yeah. You've read it. You know exactly what I'm talking about on page 330. Flipping through. One thing I did notice is that in this annotation journey is that I believe this was my most detailed annotated book. So I went a lot with generally highlighting quotes or lines that spoke out to me and just like going brackets around the paragraphs of importance and then small like notes about my feelings or just simple thoughts I had at the time, and then tabs, whatnot, on the side, wherever I thought was good. Okay, I'm gonna go a little faster now. Don't have time to speak on every little thing. Here's another one. What was this one about? I don't know. Oof, jeez. Oh my gosh, this part. This part was teased so much by Stephanie, where Jax basically holds Evangeline and says, please, little fox, remember. Little fox, little fox, little fox. I love this part so much. I probably should have annotated more, but like I love this scene so much. So good. Oh yeah, I forgot. At times I also did have this bigger post-it note that I would often write on just to avoid scribbling too much on the page and just stick it on here because I didn't want to glue anything or tape it because I didn't want to risk ripping the page. He was everything. Long exposition. together. Okay, we're getting in the last few pages now, the last section of the book. I believe this was like the first Jack's perspective we had, so it was pretty monumental. Oh my gosh, basically it. So that's the end of the annotating journey.